I'm still working on this HK450 head, and I've just assembled it, and I've found a bit of a problem with it. I'll just show you if I can show you. As you pull this, I'll put it into idle up. Sorry. As you see, as I start, if it's down, as I start taking up the tension, I'm moving about 4 millimeters on the collective, and nothing's happening on the actual pitch, on the blade pitch itself, because you can see it slopping to the side. And what that is, if you have a look in here, the linkages here on the washout base are really loose. So I'm not too sure what I'm going to do with that, even the other side, because that should actually be nice and firm, and you shouldn't get that slop through the swash itself, because you know, like the swash should be nice and, I don't know if you can see that at all, but see all the movement in there. So that's getting a lot of movement coming up through the swash, which is perfect, but it's all translating into lost movement through these linkages here. So I'm not really sure what the guy wants me to do with it. I'm going to see if I can get it apart and see if there's anything I can do with it, but I mean, I may be able to, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, to be honest. It's starting to get a lot of time involved in it, I can tell you that much, and you know, I haven't even got it anywhere near flight worthy yet, so yeah, no, that's not good at all, guys, because you're not getting any movement at all coming up into the pitch blade, into the blades. No pitch change at all up on the blades. I'll see if I can show you that. Like, I'm moving it quite a bit, and it's taking a while for it. See, there's nothing at all, and then it starts moving. So that's really going to make it hard to fly, to be honest. Really honest, it's going to be very difficult to control, because you're going to always, it's kind of like having a tractor driving along the road with a big sloppy steering, and all of a sudden you get the speed wobbles and you're chasing the steering wheel half a turn at a time to try and get it to catch up. So it's going to be like this, but unfortunately you're in the air. So yeah, I'm not too sure what the owner would like me to do, but I'll wait for his feedback. In the meantime, I'll try and strip these joints down and see if there's anything I can do with it at all, and we'll go from there. Cool, thanks for watching. Found the culprit here. If you have a look here, you can see the amount of play that I've got in here. Alright, there's a lot of play in there. See that? But if you have a look closely, which you probably can't quite see, there's a spline. It's a knurled or splined entrance point on this side where it slides in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some Loctite. I've got some really good top quality Loctite here, 263, high strength thread locker, and in this instance I'm going to use it on this particular setup. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get it apart, take this plastic, take the plastic swing arm off, but the thing is that the problem is, well, it's on bearings. You see, there's bearings there, so I want to try and get them off so that I'm not kind of hurting them in any way. And then I want to try and get some Loctite on that piece of spline in there, and then push it across, because when you push it across hard like that, the play's all gone, which is what we want. See, there's no play there at all now, which is perfect. So the other side's the same. When it's out of its little knurled piece, you're getting a lot of play there. and when it's pushed across it's actually all gone. It's beautiful. So I'm going to have a play with that, and basically these have got like little Torx screws, and I don't have any small. I've got small Torx, but they don't go anywhere near that small, so I'm going to have to work out how I'm going to get that apart, because I don't want to get the Loctite in the bearings. Okay guys, so I'll just persevere with that, but that's what I'm intending to do. Some of you might want to, if you have the same issue, you might want to like push it across to the left and get that spline, and just get a small, very small screwdriver or something like that, and put some Loctite on it, and then push it in, set and forget. But you've got the risk of it going into the bearing and seizing this linkage up. So I'm going to try and take that apart and see how I go. Alright guys, so that's just the update on that. So it can be fixed, and without replacing the whole head assembly, and we'll go from there. Cheers guys. I managed to get the assembly apart, get the bearings out so that I'm not going to be affecting it with Loctite. So what you can see, the little knurled part here that I'm talking about, just here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some Loctite on the actual knurled portion of this here, and then I'm going to press it back into the housing, into the thread. So I'm just going to do that now. Let's get some Loctite on our screwdriver here. Because the last thing you want to do is get it all over your bearings, and that's going to cause some major issues if you do that. They'll actually lock up, and that'll be the end of it. You'll have to replace them. Okay, so I'm just going to apply a generous amount onto the actual knurled portion, and just a little bit, and then push it in, and I'm going to tap that home. I'll squeeze it up with my pliers. And then I'm just going to actually get it on the surface here and push down on it, and then get my pliers on the top, around the outside of the and then just push down so it's nice and firm. And then I'm going to let that go off, and then put it back together again. Wipe off any excess you've got on the assembly. And then I'm going to repeat this process for the other side. But before you do that, you're better off waiting for one side to go off, because otherwise if you put it all back together again, you've got this arm on the wrong way, because these have to go pretty much in line up with the centre. So when I put this back on again, I've got to remember which way it went, so I'm pretty sure it went that way. Okay, so it's got a little bracket bent part of it going inwards. Okay. So, and I'm going to put a bit of lubrication on the bearings before I put them in, because they're pretty hard to get anything into them when it's all together, so I'll do that as well. So anyway guys, that's pretty much how I've solved this problem. So hopefully it helps someone out there with loose washout assembly, like, you know, because this, otherwise you get this sort of carry on, and that transfers quite a lot through the gear, and that's all it is that little spines come out, and if you chatter away like that, it'll just wear it out. So you're better off fixing it before it gets too bad. So I'm kind of glad the customer sent me this, and I'm, you know, fussy enough to have worked out what the problem is and got it sorted for him. So I'm happy to have been able to do that for him, and I'm sure he'll be happy as well, because it's going to mean he's going to have a lot more reliability. It's like having slop in your steering in a vehicle. You just can't do it. So what I'm going to do to get this to come apart, though, because I didn't show you that in the first place, is push that spline on to hold the shaft so that you can then undo it. I've got a little fine screwdriver here, and all I'm going to do is just get that and undo it, and then that bearing's ready to come out. And then the same on the other side. push down hard because you don't want to round the threads all off. And try and wiggle the bearing out if you can. And then what you can do is you can actually just basically bend it off like so. Okay, so that comes off. The actual pivot point goes through towards the center of the shaft rather than out that way. So it goes that way. Both of them go in towards the pivot point goes towards the center here. Okay, does that make sense? Right guys, so now I'm going to pull this one apart and do exactly the same thing with it. Alright, okay, so I'll do that and we'll get it back together again, and we'll carry on with the setup. So I'm going to get some 3-in-1 oil, and I'm going to just put a couple of drops, work it in from both sides. Okay, and we'll do the other side as well. Just a couple of drops is all you need. And then just work it in. You know, just give it a couple of spins. As you can see, one of them's freer than the other, so I'm going to be working on this one here to free that up. I'd say it's got a little bit of thread lock or something inside there from a previous assembly, so I'll just work a bit more oil in there. Okay, that's good. Right, so I'm happy with that. That's really good because it's travelling, you know, in those directions there. It's nice and free. Okay, so if you have any binding at all, you want to make sure that it's you pull it apart and have a look at it and see if whether it's a bearing or whatever. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we've fixed these little pins here for the linkages. And now we've just got to put them back together again. So I'm just going to put a drop of oil down to the inside the bearing here, just in this little one here. If I can get it in there, drop it down through the centre. Okay, that's good. Bit of a wipe off. And then we'll just work through, work it on like this. So put it through that section first. And then we'll put our screw on. You want to be real careful on the edge of something when you've got these screws, because they can fly off and you'll struggle to find them again. I've learnt that through actually losing stuff. So yeah, so now I'm just gonna screw that back on carefully, because you don't want to cross thread it either. So if it doesn't feel like it's going in, you're all off. and that just needs to be nipped up. That's nice and free, and then put your other bearing in. So I'm going to put a little bit of bearing 3-in-1 on this bearing itself. And then we'll put it into place. We want to make sure these are tight too, you know, secured. But we're talking, it's a pretty small screw, so that's good. Okay, so now we move on to the next one. So that one there sits like that. This one here goes like that. So the next one over, we'll carry on this one here. Again, another drop of 3-in-1 into here. Pretty hard to work it in until you actually get it in place, so we'll sit it over. And the hole goes across the centre line of the shaft, so we need to get it on that way. Sorry, this way with this side, to get it in line with the shaft. So insert it in like so. Once we've got that on, we can put our screw in. Very small screws they are, especially for my big hands. Okay, and then just carefully line it up. You don't want to strip the threads like I was saying before. You want to, because it's a machine thread, so you shouldn't be forcing it, because they're very fine threads. And just make sure you don't fire it out anywhere. So we'll just carefully line it up and nip it up. And we'll put the other side in. I've put a bit of oil on here, just a little wee drop, like so, a bit of a wipe off, and this sits through the top like so. Try and get your bearing lined up into the hole. I want to nip that up tight, nice and tight. Not strip it, but nip it, so it's not going to come apart. Very difficult to get Loctite into those, so I don't like to do that. I'll just make sure that I've got it tight, because there's not a lot of actual radial movement here when you're actually operating the heli. You're really only talking this much movement through this end. So as long as you've got those nipped up nice and tight, and you've still got them free, because you don't want it binding on that link, on that actual point. So yeah, so that's all good, all nice and cruisy. So now I can put it all back together again, and your washout base itself goes how do we get this? Okay, like so, assembles up into the head like so, with the protruding boss at the bottom, so that you've got plenty of room for this top of the washout to go up onto the head. Okay, so I'm just going to put the head back on, and now you can see that all the linkages there's no twisting or snapping in the swash at all. Everything's nice and clear. Now I've got my idle up one position, and my throttle now at or my cyclic at mid stick. And if you have a look closely, I'm not too sure whether you can see it. Yes, you can. If you have a look at the distance between the top of the swash and the head block, in the head block, and the distance between there and the head, and also the distance between the bottom and the bottom of the shaft, the collet on the shaft, you'll see that the shaft is quite a way, the swash is sitting way too high. So we've already leveled it, so what we need to do is basically pull off these 3 linkages, and I'm going to turn them down about 3 turns, tighten them down so that all 3 of them evenly, and so you don't have to realign your swash, and that will bring the whole swash plate assembly down so that you've at mid stick you're in approximately the middle of the your actual operating range, on mechanical range on the shaft. Because if you're too high, basically I'm only going up a little bit and it's hitting the head block up here, see? I don't know if you can, just a little bit out, just in here, just in that distance there, you can just see it. It's hitting the head block and then buzzing. You don't want to be loading it up. Okay, so take it back to mid stick, and this distance here is nowhere near equal to the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to drop it down about 3mm, which is about 3 turns roughly, and we'll see how we go with that. So I'm just going to pop each one of these joints off, 3 turns each. Make sure you do them each, because you don't want to get your swash out of level and have to re-level that, because it means all the head's got to come off. So hope that gives you some idea of what to do there, and then we'll start working on the other parts of the setup.